Give me the money!
Freeze, don't move!
Wait, no, I'm just a customer.
Wow, this Italy trip is gonna be great. I cannot believe we get to sit together for the whole flight too.
Yeah! That was a surprise ending. I didn't see that one.
After he messaged you the one you approved, he sent that one to me. He's like, here's a little surprise that Anthony won't.
He put Bree sold that. Dude, Ocean holding up the shop.
When he said that, I'm like, bro, did you mean to put Ocean in there?
Oh, Ocean holding up the store. Oh, that's too funny. So the lore behind that one is the original had like a long waking up in heaven thing, and I was like, it's too long, we got to cut it down a little bit. So but I didn't. He added the whole Bree Soul's dad flying to Italy with me. She's not coming to Italy, by the way. Man, it's I've had a rough week. I'm like fried since the weekend. I just had a crazy weekend with family. I had like my niece's sweet 16 on a Friday. Then on Saturday, we had my sister's birthday. And then Sunday, we have Father's Day. And I just never caught up. Usually Monday is a rough day for me. And then Tuesday, I feel better, which was the case. We did the show Tuesday. I felt okay. And then we went to bed late because we stayed on late that night. And I just haven't felt right since. So
I spent 12 hours this weekend standing outside of bounce houses.
Where? What's houses?
Bounce houses.
Oh, bounce houses. Why?
Well, because it was Laker Town's annual, festival celebration thing. So they'd have bounce houses and food trucks and music and
oh boy,
spent $150 on bounce houses.
This stuff is so crazy.
Yeah.
Dude, I actually all right. So I guess we'll get into the show stuff, and we'll talk about personal stuff on locals. Because I got a couple of interesting family stories we can do, but I
just got a text from Hope. They accomplished an end tower over on locals.
Oh my gosh, already? There's that many people in the locals chat already? I'm not even looking at it yet. We weren't sure what we were going to talk about tonight, but Rob and I will give our opinions on the SSPX because we've kind of stayed out of the conversation for a while. So Rob and I will give our take on it. But more than that, I'm looking at the fallout and the way people are reacting to it. And
are definitely going to be normal about it. 100%.
Well, one thing I asked the other day was I said, why is it that people who don't attend the SSPX, why are they so obsessed with it? It's such a weird thing. If you go to a Novus Ordo, why do you care what the society does? People, yeah, and these are typically good. It's really strange. I don't know who hates the society more. Would be guys like Mike Lewis or sedevacantists. Sedevacantists hate the SSPX.
Sedevacantists hate life, but so does Mike Lewis, I suppose. So I'm not sure.
They hate the society because the society gives recognition to the Pope, right? Where they're like, well, if he was really the Pope, you would, you'd obey him and all this stuff. So it's they can't stand the society, even when the society does something like this and says we're not going to listen and we're going to do our consecrations anyway,
Yeah.
So it's kind of a strange dynamic to watch where you would think the sedes would be I don't know. It's just it's a weird thing. But before we get into all that, I have a Knicknack success story tonight. Fed Calderon, our resident Protestant.
Hold on, whoa. Is he converting because of knickknacks?
I think so. I mean, I can't prove it, but I'm pretty sure Fed's got knickknacks. He's not like quite there, but he's meeting with a deacon. He's going to the Latin Mass once a month, and now he's going to Argentina to visit the Catholic parish his mother was baptized in. Like, this guy's just about to be Catholic. So knickknacks are now making Protestants attend the Latin Mass on a monthly basis, is my thesis that I'm going with.
Also, knickknacks will give him free knickknacks if he converts. Now,
Yeah.
I can't actually make them do that, and they'll probably hate me for saying that. But
if you're a Protestant and you show proof that you joined RCIA, we'll get you knickknacks. How about that? show us like your baptismal certificate or something like that, and we will get you a box of knickknacks. So go to knickknack.com. Knickknacks contains nicotine. It's a nicotine product. Nicotine is an addictive substance, which is why all of you are going to buy it.
They're not smoking cessation aids, especially because, Anthony started smoking again.
Yeah, it's not good. I'm stopping again though. I've had a
new SSPX.
I'll use knickknacks. Use knickknacks. All right, so go to knickknack.com, use code AB25% for 25% off your first purchase. Use code AB10 for 10% off all subsequent purchases. Also, go to blackmonkrosaries.com. Black Monk Rosaries. If you're not praying on a Black Monk Rosary, you're not on the team. Use code Avoiding Babylon at checkout, and you'll get 10% off of that too. I actually am going to order a couple of more Black Monk Rosaries. My nephew is getting baptized on Sunday, and I would like to leave it for him as a gift when he's old enough. So I'm going to get it for him for his baptism.
Nice.
All right. So Rob, we'll give our takes first. I have a clip of Father Maudsley giving his take on it. And then I'm more interested in the reaction to people's reaction. Like Integrity Magazine, Stephen Cox's magazine, put out an article, The False Friends, False Friends, Taylor Marshall and Father Ripperger betray Archbishop Lefebvre by opposing the consecrations. And I'm just kind of like, I want to understand how they think that they're betraying Lefebvre. First off, like, it's just, I don't understand how anybody could be surprised.
One, he's dead.
Yeah, okay. But like, Ripperger was a fraternity priest, right? And now he has his own priestly society.
Oh, wow. Gasper's in here taking shots already.
It's just, it's amazing to me that anybody would be surprised that Taylor, who's I'm pretty sure he goes to a fraternity parish, and Ripperger, who's a former fraternity priest, that guys like that would have a sympathetic attitude towards the SSPX, but in principle don't think they should consecrate the bishop. Like, they attend a parish where the priests left the society because of the original 88 consecrations.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually perfectly consistent with their view. I don't understand why that's betraying anybody or showing their true colors. It's baffling to me why anybody would take that position. It's like,
well, it's because, converts who are ultra traditionalist Catholic.
Oh, we'll get into his bio.
Anti-revolutionary
we'll get into
crusaders.
Rian Van Zyl is his name. We're gonna get into Rian Van Zyl, who's
such a silly Dutch name.
Is that what he is? He's Dutch.
Well, he's from South Africa.
This is his bio. A convert to the faith, an ultra traditionalist, Catholic counter-revolutionary, an advocate for integral. Like, you guys are so freaking cringe sometimes. Ultra Catholic traditionalist. Like, just stop it.
It's as bad as being Patrick attending an Orthodox parish.
Just stop it with this stuff. Like, man, the sedes, I'm telling you guys, like, what's funny about this is this guy who wrote this article, I guarantee he is a sede who hates the SSPX, but he sees an opportunity to drive a wedge between, like, your typical traditional Catholic and the SSPX. Like, they can't stand that the SSPX is kind of friendly with traditional Catholics who are more inside normal canonical status. They hate that those guys will talk with one another with respect and see each other, try to see one another's viewpoints. So what they do is they try to drive a wedge there because they can't stand anybody who doesn't see the world exactly as they do. And they don't understand how it is that people look at sedes like they're a bunch of crackpots. It's like, you guys don't even have the ability to have conversations. So you're just lunatics. So you see anybody. So I didn't even watch Taylor's stream, but I'm assuming he came on and said, because if you read the letter that the society put out, it's basically like the Council of Trent, like the Trent Catechism is what they put out. Like any normal Catholic that reads through that, you're going to just go, okay, I agree with that. 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 Yeah. So that's basically what it is. There's a couple of things like things that they brought up that are important, that especially Rob and I going through this encyclical series lately are pretty important to me to talk about too. Let me see. Let me bring up Michael Haynes's tweet.
Is this really Taylor?
That is Taylor, I believe so. I think so.
I forget what his handle was.
Yeah, I don't know. The PhD at the end may not be Taylor.
But it's a correct statement regardless.
Yeah, I agree. So wait, where is it? Shoot, I gotta find the actual Michael Haynes tweet. I might have put the wrong one in there. Like they gave a list of list of things that they're like the errors they're worried about, which are, especially with us going through that encyclical series, are pretty important. Let me see if I can find it.
It's right here.
You got it?
It's on screen.
Okay, there you go. Okay, so I acknowledge in particular that modern errors represent a dreadful threat to the whole of the Catholic order, and that their penetration into the life of the church under the influence of the Second Vatican Council and post-conciliar reforms has provoked a crisis of exceptional gravity. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Agnosticism attacks the knowledge of God. Naturalism attacks the necessity of grace. Subjectivism attacks the supernatural motive of faith. Relativism attacks the immutability of dogma. Situational ethics attacks the divine law. Liberalism attacks the social kingship of Christ. False ecumenism attacks the uniqueness of the church. Collegiality and synodality attack the divine constitution of the church and her hierarchy. Liturgical anthropocentrism attacks the holy sacrifice of the myth. Like, it'd be hard to argue with those things, right?
I mean, 90% of like that is right from the syllabus.
And so I was going back and forth with Jake from he was Joe McLean's producer, formerly Joe McLean's producer, and now I think he does the morning show over there. And Jake was trying to tell me that it's our job as Catholics to cope. And I'm like, man, that like, what does he mean by cope? So, all right. So, strangely, Bree Solsdad wrote, the SSPX profession of faith, among other things, everyone, Christians, Jews, Muslims, pagans, and atheists must enter the Catholic Church for salvation, and that the apostolic mandate to convert all peoples remains binding. Non-Catholic religions and communities cannot be treated as equals of the Catholic Church. A person conscious of serious sin must not receive Holy Communion. Goes through like a list of things that pretty much every Catholic would agree with. And then Pope Respecter said almost everything she lists can be found in Vatican II. So I said, I wonder if people are delusional or just gaslighting, because today, literally today, the Dicastery for Interreligious Dialogue puts out a meeting between Buddhists, Christians, Hindus, Sikhs in Europe, building fraternity through dialogue and collaboration. So it's like the church, like, you can't say the Second Vatican Council affirms all of those things, but then in reality, there's a Vatican dicastery promoting interreligious dialogue and fraternity without the fatherhood of God. So I said, I wonder if people
even if you could, what you're then saying is that the church has strayed from the Second Vatican Council is then in still a state of emergency.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
my point isn't even about the state of emergency or anything. My point is just like, it's not you can have your opinions on this situation, but you should never like help the revolution and pretend things are fine. Like
Right.
you shouldn't do
Or
that.
you can't ignore reality.
Yeah, like you can't have a situation where we're watching the Archbishop of Detroit going and speaking at a mosque and pretend you're upset about that when he's doing it with the explicit blessing of the Vatican. Like he is doing implicit. Like implicit. Yeah. But like all that kind of stuff is done with the express permission of the Vatican. Like it really is
implicit. Once again.
Yes, but
when they're holding it, that's how they can
weasel around it and stuff. Like the Pope's not literally telling him to do it. Yeah. So Jake says, yes, the infamous doctrinal and dogmatic and binding declaration of an interreligious conference at a Roman university. Finally, we have clear proof of Rome's formal defection of the faith. And it's like, Jake, I'm not saying Rome is defected from the faith when I say that. Like that's not where I'm going. But like because
of course the church doesn't do anything. The church doesn't pronounce doctrine or dogma anymore.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm not claiming the church defected or anything. I'm just saying, like, this is an official Vatican
Marshall.
Okay, there we go. The irony is that these Sede Inc. personalities are accusing us of betraying Lefebvre, whatever that means. But they're sedevacantists, and Lefebvre would banish them and curse them. They betray him. But it's like to be surprised that a guy like Taylor or Ripperger would hold that opinion is the O is right next to the I. I don't know what to tell you. It occasionally comes out. Like to be surprised by that, right? Like I go to a diocesan TLM. I don't go to a society chapel. So for me to be like gung-ho about them doing that, like I almost feel like I don't have any business like being that passionate about this. But in reality, I've thought about this. I've thought about this for a while recently, though, and part of me is happy that they're doing it because they are a sign of contradiction, and it's something the church must contend with, and it's something the sedes will never be able to do because they're so disjointed, and their priests are ordained by some Thuc bishop line that may not even be like. It's just so preposterous to think the sedes are accomplishing anything other than like ankle biting the Novus Ordo. Their whole personality is set as opposition to the Novus Ordo. They don't do anything, where the society has a structure that allows them to actually teach the faith to people, and they have missions throughout the world, and they're bringing the sacraments to people. It's like, yes, we're very sympathetic to that. It's a lot different than these sedevacantists. The sedevacantists, they don't get that guys like us look upon the society and are empathetic to what they're doing because they simply just want to be Catholic. And if they got express permission to consecrate these bishops, there wouldn't be this giant fiasco. So in our minds, we're like, why wouldn't the Pope just let them consecrate the bishops and keep the status quo? Like they still have their irregular canonical status. It doesn't mean you're condoning everything they're doing, but at least give them their bishops so that they can continue their mission while talks are still going on.
Or at the very least, like, don't excommunicate them.
Yeah.
You can say that you still disagree. You still disagree with the excommunicate. I don't know. It's like, I usually don't like the whole like centrist sort of everyone's wrong or everyone's right position. But on this side, on this situation, I don't think it's crazy to say, I understand the view of the SSPX. I think it is probably imprudent to do the consecrations right now at this moment, but also Rome is wrong to, one, not allowed, and two, to excommunicate them for it.
Look, the problem is that Rome hates tradition.
Yeah,
they hate tradition. It's not like a shocking thing to say. Yeah, right. Like that's what I said. Like I've attended FSSP for 15 years, and today it's Sede breaking news that I'm not a solist.
Well, I mean, they're not. Never mind.
Well, the thing is, like you saw, even when Ripperger was talking about it, he's like, "There's no winning this argument.
No,
you're gonna make someone mad no matter what you say." But the truth is, guys like us are very sympathetic to what the SSPX is doing. And in some ways, I'm kind of glad they're doing it because it's keeping some kind of pressure on Rome to face this thing that they're discussing, because there are major freaking problems right now. Well, okay, not Rome, the hierarchy, right? The hierarchy hates tradition. Clearly, our hierarchy hates tradition. Like, we have a bunch of revolutionaries who have been elevated to seats of authority in our church who despise tradition. Like, it's like every chance they get to put the pressure on us. And look, in some ways, like, somebody asked the question today, like, what's the difference between a person going to the Latin Mass at a society chapel or a fraternity parish? And the response was, the guy going to the society chapel doesn't have like the sword of Damocles hanging over his head that Rome's going to take away his Latin Mass at any moment.
There really is something to that. And it's not even worrying about Rome taking it away. Like, if you are at an FSSP or ICKSP parish, like we've seen, your local bishop could take it away anytime.
Yeah. Look, and the other thing is, like, a lot of the stuff, like, we were goofing around earlier this month about, like, Matt Gasper slaying the Sedes and stuff, right? But the Sedes have a major problem in that, how do they answer the visible aspect of the church, like that there's a visible church? And in some ways, like, the SSPX is still a sign of the visible church, because they do have a structure amongst them, and they're still recognizing the Pope. Now they're kind of in battle with him right now, and they're trying to figure some things out, but they still do recognize the Pope, and they're not calling him an anti-pope or anything. They're just, it's, the whole, man, I don't know. This stuff just kind of gets wild. So, I mean, I would like to, all right. So back to what Jake was saying. Jake responded to me. He said, the church has had crises before, and so you're denying there's a crisis. No, I love you too, Anthony, but it's literally our duty as Catholics to cope, not to bury our heads in the sand, of course, but also not freak out. God rewards hopium, not doom scrolling. And that's the line I had a hard time with. Like, it's not our duty to cope. Like, it's really not our duty to cope. Like, you can see the situation for what it is and understand that the crisis is really bad right now.
I think when he says cope, I think to read him charitably, I would say he means like just like to suffer through it.
Which I'm fine with that.
I know you would agree with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I don't like the idea of pretending all is well. Right?
Yes, 100%.
That I can't do. I can't just pretend like all is well when we're reading these encyclicals, and as you go through them, every single thing that the popes are warning us about are now yelled from the rooftops as good things from the modern hierarchy. Mm-hmm. So there's clearly an issue here, and it's like to me, I put something out the other day. I want to see if I can find it real quick. Like, it has to do with story to me. Like anybody that has ever watched an amazing comeback story in sports, when you have a series going on, and the like, if you were a Red Sox fan and they were down in that series 3 games to none, and then they come back and they wind up winning that World Series that year, like, those are the ones you remember. Those are the stories you remember. And the way that I see things right now is, for those of us who keep faith through this whole thing, and you just say, all right, I don't know what's going on, but I trust that God has everything, that God understands what's going on, you're going to see the greatest comeback story in the history of humanity, because it is going to appear as though all hope is lost, and then comes the return of the king. Like, that's how the story plays out. And if you're somebody who thinks that the what's going on right now means the church defected, you're not going to recognize the story when it happens. Like, for the Sedes who think what is going on right now looks like this isn't the church anymore, like, you're looking at the church in her passion, and Christ, when he's at the pillar being beaten, does not look like the Messiah, but he's still the Messiah. So it's like this is the grand storytelling of God. It will seem as though everything is like gone. And the reason Christ gives us the promise that the gates of hell will not prevail is because it will appear as though the gates have prevailed. Angels in the Outfield has done irreparable damage to the Long Island Italian populace.
It's been so long since I've seen that movie. I'm gonna have to show my kids that movie. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah. So like to me, more than mine and Rob's opinion on this, because I think most people understand our opinion. Like our opinion is very similar to Taylor's, where I'm very sympathetic to the SSPX. But I go to a diocesan Latin mass. Like I'm not comfortable. I'm not comfortable in my position as a construction worker, like ruling from my chair and saying, well, this is this and this is this. Like I still have to have the humility to go, I don't understand this stuff, but I have to trust that God's going to come through for us.
Like I'm not sure that the consecrations are the right thing to do. But I know I want the SSPX still out there.
Yeah. And to continue on in their mission.
Right.
And I like every single person in my life that I know that goes to the SSPX is an awesome Catholic. And it's like when they're allowing some of the craziness that they're allowing, like some of the stuff the Vatican allows with ecumenism and all this stuff, it's like, I'm looking at the people I know at the society chapels, and they got 8 kids, and they're just going to mass every Sunday, and they're just trying to live out their Catholic faith. And for a lot of people, they go there because that's the only good liturgy they can find. So it's like, I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to condemn those people. And I'm also not going to be shocked when people who go to the diocesan mass are like, yeah, we're praying for all involved.
Yeah,
this isn't a grift where you're trying to cover your bases and make sure all trads still want to listen to us. Like that's an absurd position to have. Like, no, I'm even sympathetic to the sede position, not because I'm trying to cover all my bases, because I see how crazy things look, and I'm like, yeah, I do see how somebody can come to the conclusion that something crazy happened at the council, and all the popes since the council are not valid. Like I understand that. I don't agree with it, but I can at least understand it. And the problem is the guys who hold that position, they have no ability to see things from our perspective. They're like, if you don't agree with what I say, you're a heretic. You're a part of the Novus Ordo sect. It's hard to like have discourse with people like that. It's an insane crisis we're in, and people are coming to different conclusions. And I don't see how people can call you an idiot if you came to a different conclusion than them. It's just preposterous to me. So this cornball.
I'm so glad we're getting back to him.
Rian Van Zyl. I have no idea how to pronounce his name. False friends, Taylor Marshall and Father Ripperger betray Lefebvre. Like, shut up, stupid. They revealed their true colors this week. No, they didn't reveal their true colors this week. We've all been saying the same thing for the past decade.
Ripperger, Father Ripperger, like he was trained as a priest by the FSSP. What do you expect?
Nobody revealed their true colors, guys.
We've all known it.
To tell you guys, the accusations here are so insane. The approaching consecrations of the society have once again exposed the fault lines within the traditional Catholic world. Like, guys, there are a lot of fault lines in the traditional Catholic world. Like,
because of idiots like this.
Yeah. And the guys like I said, this guy's probably a sedevacantist who hates the society, but he sees an opportunity to drive a wedge between your diocesan Latin Mass Catholic and your society going Catholic, right? Like they see an opportunity. Hey, let's drive a wedge in. Let's call them Catholic Inc. or Trad Inc. or whatever they do. More interesting than the reaction from Rome has been the reaction from prominent conservative quasi-traditionalists. Like,
God,
you guys are such LARPing losers. Like, holy crap, man. Voices who have spent years benefiting from traditionalist audiences. Like, I don't think these guys realize how small the Sede audience is. Like, I hate to break it to you guys, but like your average SSPX attendee sees things the way we do too. Like it's not, I haven't there are definitely people who have a more position in the society. Like there are those people, but like most of the people I know that go to the society, they're just like Catholics trying to be Catholic, and the society is the best option they have, and they've made a home at that chapel. So two examples stand out. Dr. Taylor Marshall's comments on a recent episode, and Father Ripperger's episode also. So both men present themselves as sympathetic to the society, and both express admiration for Lefebvre. They're not faking that. Like when you read Lefebvre's autobiography, it is, the thing is, we're also going to go through a correspondence between Lefebvre and Paul VI, which is super interesting. Yeah. No, it's actually really interesting. We're going to go through that. But when the moment of truth came to take a clear stand, both retreated into ambiguity, caution, and appeals to obedience to structures that have become instruments of the post-conciliar revolution. Like the part that makes me mad is grifting off society faithful. Marshall's treatment of it, like the idea, because the theory here is that guys like us or Marshall or anybody in the traditional landscape is grifting because we hold a sympathetic view towards the society, or even Lefebvre,
because they'll never be monetized online. They assume that when you are monetized, you make a lot of money. Therefore, people like Taylor Marshall and to a lesser extent us make a lot of money doing this. Like,
let me tell you something. I've said this about the Sedes before. Like, they've accused me. They're like, he could never become sedevacantist because he'd lose his audience and he'd lose his revenue. It's like, I don't care what position I have. I will make it entertaining and people will enjoy the show. Like that's the reality of it. Yeah, I've just betrayed my 1.8 million person SSPX only audience. What was I thinking? Like Rob and I do a show. It's an entertaining show. If I came to that position, we could talk about anything. Like Rob and I could just talk about whatever. I mean, I don't hold this position because it makes me money. I hold this position because I genuinely hold it. Like I've never lied about what I hold, my personal views about this stuff. I don't know. I don't know why people would think that. It's a silly thing.
So should we show people how much each show makes on YouTube?
Oh my gosh, it's embarrassing.
It's
embarrassing. Like
I know, but let's just do it.
You're not making money
here.
Yeah.
Look at this. Nancy Charles, $85.69, $42.
Rob out here showing receipts. Yeah, guys, we're not gonna
$8 on the Carmelo Anthony one. That was a banger one there, guys.
Guys, you don't make money on YouTube. I hope you guys know this. You do not make money on YouTube. You make money doing other things. You don't make money on YouTube. So no, I'm not worried about betraying my audience. But to show admiration for Lefebvre, that's something. You can take that down, Rob. That's an interesting thing because guys like us who are, especially Rob and I, were cradle Catholics, right? We're coming up in the heyday of the Lighthouse Catholic media days, right? Like back then, I would watch Taylor Marshall on the Coming Home Network and hear his journey home. Like that was the time period I'm coming up in. And the propaganda we heard about Lefebvre was like, they're schismatic, don't ever go near them. Like they were more evil than the Satanists. And that was the propaganda that we received, right? So then when the McCarrick scandal happened, and then COVID, it was really COVID. COVID, I think, flipped a lot of people's minds. I remember Taylor saying that he went to a society chapel during COVID because they were the only ones offering sacraments.
I think he went for Palm Sunday or Easter, something like, right?
Yeah, it was something like that. And he went and he was like, wow, these priests, like they're the ones laying their neck on the line during these shutdowns, right? So for a lot of us to go from the propaganda we received about how these schismatic evil trads are trying to destroy the church and all this, to then going, all right, let me look at this from a different lens under Francis, because Francis, he was like the great revealer for a lot of us. And we all were like, let's take a second look at this. That the whole, even Michael Matt's Unite the Clans thing, Like that was really about like the fraternity and the society. I think he was saying like we're in I don't know for a fact, but like that's what it came off to me as. It wasn't really, it wound up becoming a broader thing under Francis, where it was like everybody, let's just, lay down our arms and come together. But like fundamentally, it was about the fraternity and the society. And it's like, guys, you guys, because you would hear homilies from fraternity priests telling people, do not get married at a society chapel, do not go to confession at a society chapel, like your sacraments are not valid, they don't have a valid canonical status. Those are the homilies you would hear.
Now, to be fair, back then they did not have faculty to get confession.
Yeah, no, it was Francis that gave it to them, ironically, right? Yeah, Unite the Clans was trads uniting, right? And it was like, let's put these like squabbles down for the moment. We're in something really crazy right now. And so a lot of us did. A lot of us were like, okay, let's take a second look at this. And then when you actually think about what Lefebvre was going through, because I try to put myself in that mindset or that time frame of the council, and I see how I feel now. And if I was like growing up in the Latin Mass, because now I've been exposed to the Latin Mass for what, 8-9 years now, since 2017, 9 years. Like, I see how passionate I am about this stuff now. Now, what if I grew up in the Latin Mass and then all of a sudden they take it away and you're watching all this stuff go down? You would hope that we will be part of the guys who were like flipping out, don't take our Latin Mass away.
Have you read Lefebvre's letter to confuse Catholic?
No, I think I have. It's just been so long since I've read it.
It's really good. It really helps you see the struggles that Catholics were going through as a whole.
Oh yeah, I've definitely read it. Yeah,
just really gives you a good sense for Lefebvre himself too.
So today I learned some taffy intros cost more than AB makes an episode. Because he's paying for those AI intros, those silly AI intros. I want to bring up this back and forth between Lefebvre and Paul VI.
Let me find it real quick in the messages here.
That's the last thing I put in. So, confronting a rebel archbishop's accusations and acts of now this is from National Catholic Reporter, so I don't know how. Like, this is from back in 2018. It's from National Catholic Reporter. Confronting a rebel archbishop's accusations and acts of defiance was the heaviest cross Paul VI had to bear in his pontificate, says a new book on never before published notes and documents. After years, of course,
finding out the Pentecost octave was gotten rid of.
Yeah, right. After years of correspondence and efforts at convincing Lefebvre, founder of the SSPX, to accept the teachings of the council and the authority of the Pope, Blessed Paul lost his patience at times in a private meeting and suspended the cleric in 1976. So this is the quote. It said, "You said it and wrote it, that I would be a modernist Pope. By applying an ecumenical council, I would betray the church. Do you understand that if this were so, I would have to resign and invite you to take my place and lead the church?" Pope Paul said, according to a top Vatican official's reporting of the proceedings. The typed report and handwritten notes and letters of Blessed Paul are part of a new Italian book, The Bark of Paul. So the book makes public more than 24 handwritten letters. There's a good part here. Hang on. But most dramatic are the documents on Lefebvre. The book focuses on the Pope's comments and reactions. All right. So at length, the Pope condemned the false and inconsistent doctrine and grave divisive actions of the Archbishop during a secret consistory with cardinals on May 24th, 1976. The book said, the times the Pope told the cardinals called not for concessions, but vigilance against all dangerous and incorrect interpretations of the Second Vatican Council. Just a few months later, in July, Lefebvre was suspended from his priestly functions after he illegally ordained 13 priests at his seminary in Switzerland. In an open violation of his suspension, he led a mass at a sports arena in France before thousands of faithful and hundreds of journalists who reported or broadcast his lengthy homily in which he defended the traditional faith and lambasted the Conciliar Church. In the end, after direct correspondence, intermediaries, and a number of public statements seemed to have failed to sway the Archbishop to meet and Pope who met face-to-face with him in September 11th. The Pope's personal secretary also attended along with the assistant secretary, whom the Pope charged with taking notes. Written like a transcript, the report said Pope Paul began conversation saying, I hope to have before me a brother, a son, a friend. Unfortunately, the position you have taken is that of an anti-pope. What can I say? You have not allowed for any measure in your words, your actions, or your behavior. You judge the Pope as disloyal to the faith of which he is the supreme guarantor. Perhaps this is the first time in history that this has happened. You told the whole world that the Pope lacks the faith, does not believe, that he is a modernist, and so on, Blessed Paul said, underlining the extreme gravity of such accusations and the need to reflect and accept the just consequences. Now, because I always thought of the consecrations in 88. Like, I didn't realize this stuff was going on. Like, this kind of tension was between Paul VI and Lefebvre. And Lefebvre's out there lambasting Paul VI, calling him a modernist and saying he doesn't have the faith. Like, that must have been a wild thing to witness. Now, if you're a faithful Catholic at the time, you're going through this, like, the confusion that people must have had between loyalty to the Pope and seeing all these drastic changes happening. Like, I don't know. Like, you have to give a certain amount of like grace to the people who were just totally confused, like, and all the people who probably just stopped attending mass because they were like, I don't even know what's going on anymore. Like, what the heck is happening? The church seems completely different. And then those people who are like, I have to follow the Pope no matter what. That is the sign of a true Catholic. A Catholic follows the Pope, right? But then you have the traditionalists who are like, this is literally the Protestant Reformation happening in our church. This is the Cranmer table popping up. They're having guitar masses at my local parish. Like, what is going on here? It must have been a really chaotic time that I never really took into consideration, that we started to think about in 2017, 2018. It was especially for the younger guys who are just kind of coming into this in the past like 5 or 6 years. Because even to talk about the McCarrick stuff, Rob, that's a decade ago.
It is, which is crazy.
A decade ago, right?
The 2002 stuff is 2.5 decades ago.
Yeah, so the original abuse crisis happens in 2002, but the McCarrick stuff breaks in 2017. And
yeah,
man, if you guys weren't paying attention to the Catholic, like, first off, there was a way smaller commentary, right? It was Taylor Marshall. Like, he was who everyone was listening to. It's what it was, man. It was like you were watching this stuff happen, and Taylor was like, we should get him on to talk about this, because I mean, we've done it once before, but it was like Taylor was in the Catholic speaking circuit. He was hanging with Scott Hahn and like Patrick Madrid, and like that's the circles.
Well, like that photo,
the photo of Jennifer Fulton, Patrick Madrid, and Taylor Marshall. I posted the other day. I was like, man, like a different world, man.
Yeah, it was not like, so easy following in your footsteps. Let me tell you.
And it's like, dude, it was just, you couldn't wait every day to like I remember driving home and like pulling in my driveway, and I wouldn't want to get out of my car because I had to finish listening to the rest of the episode. It was like riveting stuff going through. The Vigano stuff was happening. Like, people that, you younger guys that kind of converted after 2020 or something, you don't know what that time was like. We were all Pope-splaining early on in Francis's papacy. We were all just like,
you know who else like doesn't know what that time was like? The convert ultra traditionalist, anti-revolutionary,
exactly.
That article.
Man, it's funny because like even a lot of the guys in like in the Tradisphere now came in like 2020. Like they're not even veterans. Like it really is interesting to watch how the landscape has changed over time, but it was an insane time for guys who grew up under JP2 and then Benedict. And when Benedict was Pope, it was just like this glorious time where we had this ultra traditional Pope, is what we thought. I like those days because orthos didn't know how to use the internet. Yeah, look, there's a whole lot of stuff going on in ortho world, man. Those guys, we have so much content we could get to tonight because
we're keeping to 2 hours at most. I got stuff.
Yeah, you know what? And we're gonna wrap up the society show. Like we're gonna keep that, and then we'll go over to locals and we'll do some other stuff over there. But yeah, I just look, it's been a wild ride the past decade, and I'm at a point where I think that the bishops in the society, they know their own flock and they know their own needs better than any of us do. And I think they're doing what their conscience is calling them to do. I can't tell them what to do, and I don't go to the society. So I'm going to sit back and watch what happens like the rest of us. And I don't think me putting my 2 cents and saying, I don't think they should do these consecrations. Like, who cares what I think? Like, absolutely, like, who gives a crap what I think? Y'all should go back and watch Marshall podcast Parsing Francis in Spanish to explain it. I know, I remember those days.
You know what would be a fun show to do? We should get Taylor on and review some of his old shows like that.
That would be funny. Like
that would be fun.
Episodes.
Yeah. I think that would be a fun show.
First off, dude, I go back and watch shows of ours from like a year or two ago, and I'm like, oh, they're so terrible. Like, I guarantee he would cringe so hard at some of his older stuff. But look, that's when Taylor started doing commentary. But there were years where I would listen to his podcast because he was just doing like biblical analysis and Catholic, like he was doing catechesis. So I was listening to.
I was a member of New St. Thomas for like half a year.
Me too, for more than that. Yeah, I was a member of New St. Thomas Institute. It's just funny that, like, you know, I'm listening to Taylor Marshall through all this stuff. Then I watch the McCarrick stuff happen. I'm watching Taylor Marshall, and then like it turns out to eventually that like I'm friends with Taylor Marshall. He comes on the show. It is kind of funny how all that happened, because we were just like you idiots in the chat at one point, right? Like I don't mean like that, but you know what I mean. Like we were just hammering away in the chat.
We're gonna lose our $40 a show, Ant.
Yeah, it is funny how that happened. But yeah, I don't know. Like my position is pray for all involved, and I'm gonna urge the sedes to chill out a bit.
They do not know how.
Stop trying to drive a wedge between like your diocesan Latin mass going Catholic and the SSPX guys. Like there's no animosity between those guys. Like I don't know. I've never caught any animosity from SSPX guys towards, like, if I go to a diocesan Latin mass. Like, I've gone to the society chapel on days where like my only option is a terrible Novus Ordo, and I'm like, I'd rather go to the society on days like that. And they're always nice to me and great. So I don't know. I don't sense that animosity. So yeah, we'll pray for all involved. And now, oh no, don't tell me locals crashed.
Let me go check.
It's showing fine on my end.
It's probably because the tower you guys built immediately.
I'm still seeing it live on my local.
It's working for me.
Yeah, it's just your personal locals show crashed. Locals is up and running on my end. So, all right. So we're going to wrap this up and head over to locals. I appreciate all you guys for checking us out. Taylor, let's pick a date. We'll get you back on, man, because we should reminisce one episode. It's kind of wild how different Catholicism and like the Catholic world is now versus when I first started. Really,
we didn't read this one when it came in early in the show. But
so I had the same discussion with my future mother-in-law. She's deep in the SSPX circles, and I basically said that it's not my call. I ache for the SSPX, and I'm constantly scandalized by the BS that Rome. Yeah, it's you know, when we say Rome, we're not talking about the papacy, and we're not talking about like
shorthand.
Yeah, we're just talking about, like, you know, the Vatican, but. Yeah, it's a hard time. I just say everybody that's like freaking out over this stuff, don't freak out. Like stay calm, be at peace, live your life, control what is in your sphere of influence. That's all you really can do. So evangelize people, bring them into the faith, bring them into the church, do everything you can, raise your children properly. Don't obsess on scandal, and just whatever's in your sphere of influence to control, that's what you control. Because there's nothing else you can really do, especially, you know, I mean, your average person at your local parish, like, there's not much that we could do. Ranting on the internet and just like the constant negativity feed is not always good for your spiritual life and stuff. So really just do what you can do in your local sphere of influence, and just sit back and watch, because God's going to do something spectacular. And I think it's going to be in our lifetimes. So, you know, the worse it gets, the more comforted you should be with the fact that we're closer to God's intervention, because God will not let us down. Like, God will intervene. It's just, how far will he let it go before he does? That's all it really is a matter of. So we're going to head over to the other side. Thank you all for watching. If you're not a Locals member, join our Locals. We're going to talk about the Orthodox tonight, because there's an Orthodox priest saying some crazy stuff about their liturgy. And then I got a cool Father Maudsley clip to counter what this guy's saying.
Also, I never told you the story of how I accidentally gave money to a master Freemason.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that. I don't know what that's about. And then
I forgot all about that.
If we have time, I have the most insane John Deloney clip I've ever heard, where a woman quit drinking, and she called in to tell John Deloney how she's having a hard time that her husband hasn't quit drinking yet, and John Deloney encourages her to divorce her husband. And I'm just like, wait, what?
Wait, what did you just say? You quit drinking, and then what?
She quit drinking,
yeah,
and she was calling in to say how she's having a hard time that her husband hasn't quit drinking. He still drinks, even though he doesn't drink to excess and he's not an alcoholic. And John Deloney says, I think that you need to divorce your husband.
What?
No, dude, it's the most insane thing I've ever heard. So we might get to that. I hope we can get to that, because I'm going to lose my mind on this one. But we have a ton of other stuff to get to also. So we'll see you guys on the other side. Pray for everybody involved in this. Take us out, Rob. Oh, man. That was your cue.
I know.